So we were predicting some moves being made, but it's happening pretty fast. Paul, have your Celtics gotten better or worse after these trades?
Man, they definitely got worse. I mean, when you trade away Porziņģis, a borderline all-star, and a player like Jrue, some leadership and the clutch gene that he brought to this team and the locker room presence, they got worse. But we all understand what's going on in Boston. You know, they're at a position to where there's new ownership. They're cutting costs. They're playing the long game for a year from now after Jason Tatum gets fully healthy and recovers, hopefully by the end of next year. So he'll be back probably the following season. Who knows how his recovery is going to go. You know, they've traded themselves and put themselves in actually a good position because I think in another year they'll try to play for some cap space maybe. They'll try to gather some pieces to maybe add some depth. But this is some trades that I'm seeing for the long run because there's no way you trade Porziņģis for, Jang and, a couple second rounders and Jrue Holiday for an expiring contract. So for better or for worse, it is what it is, and we know we're not going to be competing for a championship probably next year, so we're playing the long game.
We know you are in it with the Celtics for better or worse.
For better or worse, I'm in it.
Yeah. It is worse. Let's just put it that way. It's worse. But look, Paul mentioned Porziņģis and Jrue Holiday, and it's the long game for the future. There's no question about it. But it's just not those two. It's also Tatum not going to be available to them next year. So you're missing 3 guys off your championship run and your championship team. So next season, as it comes up in 25-26, they're not going to, they'll just be whatever. They'll be a team, a playoff-type team, and that's pretty much it. But you could smell the luxury tax. You could smell all of those sort of things, and they wanted to shave some of that off to set things up for the future 2 years from now when they get into free agency or trade for somebody that got a big contract. You can see it. It's not that difficult to see. I don't know how competitive they're going to be.
They're going to be pretty competitive still.
Of course they are to you. But I don't know how competitive. It looks like the Lakers might be more competitive than them come next year just based on the way the roster's constructed now.
That would be extraordinary.
The Lakers got to get in shape first.
That would be amazing if the Lakers were.
I just had to throw that in there.
Once the Lakers get in shape, we don't have no problem getting in shape. They talk about their off-season moves is getting in shape. That's great.
Rick, have the Celtics gotten better or worse?
No, they've gotten worse. What I'm really curious about is if they would have made these same moves if Jason Tatum hadn't suffered what is essentially a season-ending injury for next year. Because they had to make some financial moves. That was the bottom line. We knew that, and we still need to see what's going to happen with Al Horford, but we knew that Jrue Holiday or Kristaps Porziņģis were going to be moved because otherwise they're paying some $500 million.
In luxury tax?
And not just luxury, in total.
That's in salary.
In total.
In salary total.
Right?
Yes.
But even the top teams that's double what you would normally pay. So they had to do this. This is not about getting better, though. This is about survival because not only did you need to move those guys because of the financial aspect of it, but Kristaps Porzingis hasn't been healthy. Jrue Holiday was not healthy at the end of last year. So you're at least getting some guys back in Anthony Simon and George Niang who are going to be on the floor. I mean, at this point, you need to be able to put a team on the floor for the Boston Celtics with Jason Tatum out and not knowing the availability of Jrue Holiday and Kristaps Porzingis on a full-time basis. So, but they were going to be worse without Jason Tatum, period. They needed to make financial moves. Where they go from here and how fast they get back, that's going to be the big question. Because I don't know that I see George Niang and Anthony Simons as key pieces to the next championship iteration of the Boston Celtics.
So, Paul, you think this is happening just because of the new ownership?
Yeah, I do, because every new ownership, Joy, if you look around the league, think about what Dallas did. They had new ownership. They instantly made a splash. We're getting Luka. We're going to – it's like that in all sports, even in business. We're going to do it our way. You know, they're going to – hey, I want to make my imprint on what this team is going to be when it's time for us to get to a championship. I can say I had my DNA all over that. You know what I'm saying? If you notice that. Like when first ownership changed, when I was with the Celtics in my third year, immediately traded everybody. Antoine, all our building blocks. We just went to the conference finals. We was a playoff contender. We was a piece away. Sold the team. traded everybody. So this normally happens when new ownership comes in. Same thing happened in Phoenix. I was telling Key about that. They traded for KD, got a new coach, did all those different things. And so it's kind of normal, just like when new ownership comes in, that they want to make changes right away.
And that's true, because Paul was the general manager at the time.
I knew it was coming. He was trying to trade me.
But
you held so long for that. That was
because I wanted him to finish his point.
Yeah.
But he is 100% correct. Guess who got traded when a new owner came to the New York Jets?
Keyshawn Johnson.
Keyshawn Johnson.
New owner, yeah.
Immediately, he was there 2 months, have never met him, didn't even have a conversation with him. Next thing you know, trading block.
Yeah, I mean, I think they got younger and cheaper. They definitely didn't get better. And this was, I don't know that this much was expected, but we knew that there were some moves coming. And the Tatum injury is absolutely playing a role in this. I know that the new owners may have made some moves, but I have a hard time believing that they would have just blown everything up had Tatum not gotten injured, even if they had lost that series. If we knew that they were coming back as a whole from essentially what they were from the championship season, maybe you run that one more time before you blow it up. But now you're in a situation where it's going to be extremely expensive. You know you're likely not getting Tatum back for the whole of next season. So when he is back, what is the team going to look like? What are you going to pay for this next year? Where, yes, they'll still be competitive, but there won't be any expectations of the Celtics this year.
Yeah.
And as they're currently constructed, if they do end up making it to the finals, that would be pretty unexpected. They would have overachieved based off the fact that they just lost Porziņģis and Jrue Holiday, and they won't have Tatum for all of next year.
The crazy thing, if we go back and we remember, when they bought the team, the noise started coming out immediately about the luxury tax and the money and blowing things up.
Well, I mean, it's
Tatum wasn't hurt,
it's a pretty expensive bill.
Tatum wasn't even hurt at that point.
Yeah.
They had already started that conversation about doing something with
because Paul was getting mad why they already trying to break us up.
Yes.
So
it was already in their mind.
And it drove the Dallas Mavericks decision on Luka Doncic. You had brand new ownership, and they were looking at the prospect of paying him $345 million on his extension, and he was injured for the better part of the year, and they're like, do we really want to invest in that? But
didn't they buy the team the year they went to the championship?
Yes, they had bought it prior to that.
The championship.
But then, brand new to the situation, they lose in the finals, right? They lose in the finals, and everybody's pointing fingers at Luka not being in shape and not defending, and then he comes back the next year, he's in the same shape and not defending and gets hurt, and they're like, oh, and we're going to pay this guy $345 million? I don't think so. But, Paul, I'm curious, because I think that if we really look at all the dominoes, the first domino that fell in all this was the New York Knicks basically taking it to the Boston Celtics. I mean, that essentially, that's what that steel-toed boot is what kicked them in this direction.
These talks was already talked about before all that.
Before we played the Knicks, huh?
Before we played the Knicks. But you know what I'm seeing, though? I'm seeing us, and I'm seeing not only Boston, but I'm seeing the league. The league is changing right before our eyes, because with the money getting so out of control with these max contracts, I can see teams start building their team around one superstar with a bunch of role players, to where they only have one max or super max contract, and this the rest kind of in between contracts. They're going to go away from paying super max, and then almost max. Like those deals, it looks like the way that the league is going, it's going to go back to, like, you got that one superstar. I think super teams are dead. You're not going to see a big three to where you got three franchise players, three all-stars making big money, because you're not going to be able to sustain that. The money is that you can't afford to pay three players $60 to $75 million a year and have a roster built out that can compete just because you're heavy at the top. So I think what Indiana showed us, and what you showed us with OKC, that you have to draft well, you have to find that superstar, and you have to get a bunch of players that don't need the max contract, but you have to have that one superstar.
Who don't need the max contract?
All of them need it, but they ain't gonna get it. And look, if Luka Doncic can get traded, it's going to be a lot of big names, I think, man, coming to my head.
Well, speaking of that, should they consider moving Jaylen Brown?
No, I don't think they should consider moving Jaylen because, listen, this is the Boston Celtics, and we pride ourselves in being competitive and playing for championships. And Jaylen is a big part of that, him and Tatum. So, like, moving forward, Jaylen is already probably a couple years into his deal. Jason's kicks in, starting next year, and Jason kicks in next year. I think you keep these two guys. I mean, because they already shown that they can win together. Their formula is what it is. So I don't think you should trade Jaylen Brown. But like I said, when you trade Luka Doncic, other owners look at that and say, hold on, we're not going to be frowned upon from our fans if we trade them and then we're still competitive, and we can still be a championship contender. So I personally don't think so, but I wouldn't put it past them.
You can't trade everybody. I mean, somebody's got to play for you. You can't just keep getting rid of your top dogs. I mean, he's only 27, 28 years old.
29.
29.
About to turn 29. 29. I'll be 29 in October.
That's still relatively young, considering where these guys are playing and how long they're playing into their careers.
Yes.
So when you look ahead, you don't want to throw in the towel. Now, if you ask me in 2027, because I'm assuming Tatum misses 25, you bring them back together in 26. I mean, he misses 25, 26 season. You bring them back after that and see what they are. And at that point in time, then if there's something on the table where you say, well, maybe we move on from Jaylen or maybe we move on from Tatum at this point in time, but not right now. You got to be competitive.
Yeah.
You got to be able to make the fans, like Paul say, you got to put the butts in the seat and people got to be at least happy.
And it's not out of the realm they could get to the finals next year. Listen, look what Indiana did. Look what Indiana did. They didn't have a superstar, as we like to say. They had a bunch of guys who were very good and understood their role. Boston can have that. They can build that out and surround that around Jaylen Brown and Derek White. Would you say that Derek White and Jaylen Brown is better than Indiana's top two players? Probably so. Right? Yes. Derek Brown, Jaylen Brown has been a second-team All-NBA player.
I might give you that.
You know what I'm
but
saying?
then I'm not going to say that the next 3 or 4 are the same as Indiana.
Well, yeah, maybe the roster isn't as deep, but they're still going to be competitive next year.
No,
Who would be the next?
Should they consider moving Jaylen Brown?
No, I don't. But you guys bring up an interesting point, and Key keeps saying that, like, you have to have somebody and you have to be competitive. I don't know this ownership. I don't know if they're thinking that way. I don't know if they bought this thing and they're thinking.
You want to just throw in the towel?
Well, no. Tear it down. I don't want to spend a lot of money. I'm not going to play. If their thinking is we're not going to play for a title next year anyway with Jason Tatum out, why spend any money? Why not just be like, just start over? I wouldn't do it because Jaylen Brown isn't just a centerpiece to this team. Jaylen Brown is a Finals MVP. Jaylen Brown is a champion. Like, he's done enough that I hold on to him. And I actually want to see, what is Jaylen Brown without Jason Tatum? Like, how much can he step into taking charge of this team in a bigger way? We haven't seen him without Jason since his rookie year, when he was just a contributing player on that team. So that's what I'm curious about. And then we see once Tatum comes back. So I would say I'm going to take a year, but he's 1 year into a $285 million 5-year deal. And if I'm new ownership, I'm looking at that, and I may give it a year. But to Paul's point, I think teams are, like, you still have Jason Tatum on a max deal, right? I think you look at this for a year and go, can we afford to have all of that money spent on 2 players, or do we need to diversify?
See, it should be a 2-year. It should be a 2-year project. This year without him, and the year with him, because you're not.
What, Tatum and Brown?
Yeah, you get
back
this year
together again.
Back together again,
But
because
we've
they've
already
shown
seen that, haven't we?
Not the new owners.
Okay. Well, I can go back watch tape. I'm gonna watch game tape.
But you're not getting Jaylen Brown and Tatum is just not walking through the door. You don't just give up your players, man.
But
you can't just keep doing that.
No,
you
no,
can't.
In the
You're
middle of their
under.
prime.
No,
You're
but in the
not
middle of your prime, you're already under the tax problem. That's
Understood
over
that.
with now.
Understood that. But this is the thing that I've always felt with Tatum and Brown, is that they're not the ideal nucleus for a team, which is why they had to go and get a Jrue Holiday and a Kristaps Porziņģis and a Derek White and have all these pieces in order to be a championship team. Ideally, you want the Jokic, Jamal Murray model or the Draymond Green, Steph Curry model.
I mean, they went to the finals without those.
I was about to ask you, what was the 5 without those two?
Well, we didn't have Jrue. We went to the finals versus Golden State.
You didn't have Porziņģis either.
No, we didn't have Porziņģis.
That's what I'm saying. Right. You still went to the finals.
I mean, Rick, he doesn't know what he talks about sometimes.
That's
You guys didn't win a championship until you got Jrue Holiday and Kristaps Porziņģis.
Yeah,
and then you got it done.
It helped them.
That is true, but
That's right. They pushed them over the top.
Porziņģis barely played.
You had Jason and Tate
every
year.
And couldn't get it done. The window of time that Tatum and Brown had, where they were very successful, but ultimately couldn't finish the deal until you put all those other pieces around them and you became a really expensive team.
Look how young they are relative. How old is Jason Tatum? About to be 27.
Yeah.
Next year.
Yeah.
28 for Brown.
Okay.
So we talking about 3 years ago, they was 24 and 23. Mm-hmm. Like, that would have been the youngest team in NBA history to win it.
Okay, but it wasn't. And OKC was.
Yeah, second youngest.
Second youngest.
Second ever. Now, we're going to go back to Portland. Fair.
We can't make sure Rick can't be a champion.
I was not there.
That's right.
I was not there.
You covered.
I was not there.
Bill Walton and company.
I was not there. I was not even watching.
All right, let's talk about the Los Angeles Lakers. Luka and LeBron have played 28 total games together since the blockbuster trade that landed Luka in Los Angeles. That included a first-round exit in the playoffs and some comments from head coach J.J. Redick about how the team needed to be in championship shape. Well, apparently Luka got the message, and he's been focused on his conditioning this offseason, reportedly losing significant weight.
That man looked like he was lifting 1,000 pounds.
Did that look staged, or did it not?
That was 1,000 pounds.
Did you get that?
You don't think he's
going to stop now?
He's really lifting it?
Damn,
he's lifting it, but he ain't going all the way.
That was 1,000 pounds.
Yeah,
I don't care. You got to get that up. You got to get that up.
Depth,
and you can't see the levers.
And it's on one of those things that kind of rotate.
That's right. You can't see the levers
for the ground. That was for the ground.
What are you talking about?
If I'm lifting that, I'm gonna be dunking from free throw. Seriously, that's 1,000 pounds.
It's cute.
Man,
it's cute. And I like the fact that he's doing it.
The thing to do, if people think that you are not in shape or that you're not focused, is to post workout videos.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that's what because obviously he wasn't working out before posting this video.
Hold on.
I would have been more impressed if he was doing defensive slides.
I'm going right now. I'm picking Luka for MVP. After this,
Stop.
This is crazy.
Stop.
All right.
Okay, did you get that? Or got that? Okay, can I stop?
How dangerous will your Lakers be with a motivated Luka?
Okay. Let me see if I can figure this out. Let me get it right for Joey. If Luka does, okay,
I know this.
For the first 2 weeks, what he did for us, when he came over from the Mavs, for the entire season, connect the dots, then I think we'd be very dangerous.
What did he do?
Those first 2 weeks, Paul, he was a hustle face on the defensive end. Okay, he looked like he was excited to be a part of the Lakers organization because he was out to prove to the Dallas Mavericks and whoever was out there saying that he didn't play both ends of the floor. Look at me. And he was active, handsy. He was moving around. If he can do that the course of the season, we're going to be very dangerous.
So you're saying if he can put out the effort that he put out in the first 2 weeks of the season across the totality of the season, then you guys will be very dangerous.
See how that works?
Yeah.
I did that pretty good.
So you're saying now he don't play with no effort?
I don't believe that he does on the defensive end. And at times, he gets lackadaisical even on the offensive side when things aren't going his way. At times, the first 2 weeks, we didn't see Luka turn to the refs. He didn't do none of that. As the season wore on, he started getting a little bit back into the Luka Dallas Dallas Mavericks type situation. And if he could just stay focused and do that little hustle face, we can be dangerous because we need him to play some effort. He can't be just a liability out there when they just switching and they know, we getting ready to ISO this dude, switch up. We going to handle this.
What do you think, Paul?
I just feel like too much is being put on Luka. I mean, for crying out loud. The man averages 38 and 8
but what difference
every year.
But Paul, if I'm giving you 30 and I'm giving up 27,
that's a +3.
I
mean, we good. We good.
No,
we
not.
We winning.
No, we not.
Come on. That's a +3, Key.
No, I don't want that. I don't want that.
Why not? You don't want to win by 3?
I don't want that. I don't want that.
I mean, listen, we know Luka can win playing the style of he can get to a finals playing the style of basketball he plays.
But they also, you got to go back to Dallas, though. The moves that they made, bringing in the players that they brought in.
Well, that's why my answer is it depends on how they build the rest of the roster around him and LeBron next year.
But I'm
Luka
looking
is
at it,
good enough to take a team to the finals.
When you ask me the question, the only thing I'm looking at is the roster as it stands right now. That's because that's all I can look at.
Well,
And that roster is not good enough.
And that roster's not good enough. Because no one's giving me their players. They're not helping me. We had a conversation, we, as the Lakers, there was some things that was floated out there at taking a look at Jaylen Brown. Mm-hmm. Boston ain't doing no damn deal with the Lakers.
Nope.
They not doing right.
I mean, the Mavs did.
Yeah, but that was something.
They thought they were.
That was some hocus pocus right there.
They still think they're going to win that.
You know, they did a deal with them, and then look, they ended up with the #1 pick.
There was some hocus pocus going on.
Yeah, it was like
With Paul's
some crystal
ball
balls.
Yeah.
How dangerous will the Lakers be with a motivated Luka?
Because the roster is not fully formed for him, not that dangerous. But do we have a timestamp on that video? Because I've seen that video or read that story at least 5 times since Luka has been in the league.
That was AI.
He's losing weight. He's
But
he's in shape.
Let me ask you a question.
To your point.
Go ahead. Ask
To
me.
your
Go ahead,
point, he gave it to you for 2 weeks. If he could only sustain it, that's the whole question.
I just need
and it's not just him.
Not today, Paul. Come on. Man.
Yeah, Paul, come on.
Come on, man.
Come on. You just want to do a pause now? Do a pause?
We don't do pause. We don't do pause.
I don't know
Okay.
Order in the court.
Whatever.
I'm saying that Luka averages 30. I don't know what else y'all need from him. Like, you want him to get skinnier?
No, you know what? I want him to be able to play
You want him to
at
get
the pace.
stronger? This is the problem Iverson had. They wanted him to practice. This man was the MVP. This man.
Oh, no, do
now.
not put Allen Iverson and Luka Doncic in the same sentence when it comes to effort.
This is high
Are you
level.
kidding me?
It don't matter. So why they was complaining to Allen about practice when he go out there getting 30?
The reason they was complaining to AI about the practice, though, is because his off-the-court stuff that everybody cared about.
This is the same thing.
They just wanted to say, well, you missed it on practice because of that.
It's the same thing. They say this narrative started with Dallas trading him.
What?
The man the narrative of him being out of shape and all of this.
No, it did not.
It did start with Dallas.
No, it did not.
Why not?
It was already talked about in the finals. It's been talked about.
It started in Dallas, is what I'm saying.
Well, that's where he was playing.
But no, it really started coming out like when he got traded. There was like the hookah.
It was already floated out there.
No.
Like, floating out there.
Man, how you make it to the finals? I'm rolling with Luka Doncic.
I'm rolling with him.
You have no choice.
He's a top 5 player.
You don't have a choice but to roll with Luka. He's with your team.
No, I'm rolling with him, but I want him to do for us those first 2 weeks. Take it the course of the season.
But here's
just that effort.
Okay, but it wasn't just him. It wasn't just his effort. He shared the ball, right?
So that's
which
all
got everybody
part of
else,
it.
which got everybody else hyped up.
That's all part of it.
But if he's going to share the ball, then he's got to do other things rather than dominating the ball and getting to the spot and getting his points.
10 rebounds. He got to do that. That's other.
Why
things.
not?
That's other.
We're talking about him being arguably the best player in the league. It's what
I'm
Nikola
saying
Jokic
nobody was
does.
mad when Shaq couldn't make free throws. What y'all?
Yeah, but Shaq
what
was
you
playing.
saying?
Shaq was still
this is
playing
what
deep.
I'm trying to tell you. He's giving you this.
But Paul,
Stop asking for everything.
But why?
Y'all want the whole.
You know why?
Look, you get your pizza, right? You get the pepperonis, the onions. You want the whole combination, everything. You got all of this.
You know why I'm asking for it? Because there's no reason that he's incapable of it. If it's a matter of conditioning, if it's a matter of being in shape, it's a matter of effort defensively.
I've watched Luka Doncic since he was over in, where is it? Slovenia. I see the same player I saw in Slovenia and the same player. What's going to change in his effort outside of he going to be a little bit more in shape?
He was in better shape when he got here.
It's a mindset. He's not going to be on the all-defensive team.
Yeah, it's a mindset. So give me a little bit of effort.
What you want to slide his feet a couple more inches?
Yes. I do.
What you want?
I don't want somebody.
Just slide his feet a couple more.
I don't want somebody to beat him on the pick and roll and tell him, "Come here," and then move everybody out and roll by.
You can't. Like
effort though, Paul.
He does try.
The first 2 weeks he
does try. I'm trying to tell y'all.
He made all defense the first 2 weeks.
Watch this, and we're gonna replay this tape. When the season started for the Lakers, you're going to be seeing all that stuff that you saw the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, I need that, though.
Man, by the time December come, it's going to be the Luka we've been seeing this whole career.
Yep.
Yeah, and I don't want that, though.
But he is who he is.
No, I understand that. I just want him to
Paul, were you a different player after you got with KG and Ray?
No, I just got noticed more.
You were the exact same player?
Yeah.
Okay.
I put the effort on defense. I was an offensive player. I shot less. I was the same player because I used to be like, well, I'm not on the all deep. Then they started recognizing my defense because I was on a team that won and we was on TV more.
But let me ask you this though, because of KG and Ray, in the way they came in from a defensive standpoint, did your defensive effort increase?
Yeah, my defensive effort increased because I didn't have to give as much offensively. You know what I'm saying? I didn't have to carry as much of a burden on the offensive end. He still got to carry this burden for the Lakers next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, next year.
But we know that he can be the best player on a team that goes to a finals.
Right.
We saw him do that. But the rest of the roster has to be constructed in a way to support what he does and make up for what he doesn't do. There are very few perfect stars.
But I want him to be perfect.
Well,
I just want him to be better.
Wish in one hand.
I think he can be.
And that's perfect. Because he's damn near there already just from the offensive end. Just give me a little bit, man.
A few more of those big squats.
Just a little bit. That's all I'm asking.
Subscribe here to get the latest from Speak and go watch a few segments from our other shows on FS1.